A conspiracy among Honolulu police officers to try to frame a man who was embroiled in a financial battle with the police chief and his wife. Details were revealed in federal court today after a retired officer pled guilty to felony conspiracy and implicated other officers in conspiring against Gerard Puana, who's the uncle of Deputy Prosecutor Catherine Kealoha, the police chief's wife. In a plea deal with federal prosecutors, retired officer Niall Silva admitted to taking part in a conspiracy to frame Puana for mailbox theft in 2013. So where does the case go from here? Manolo Morales got some answers. Manolo?
Joe, Puana went to trial for mailbox theft 2 years ago, which ended in a mistrial. Now, court records show that the cover-up continued even after that trial ended. Retired HPD officer Niall Silva walked out of federal court today after posting bail of $25,000. He pleaded guilty to conspiracy, accused of falsifying records, obstructing an official proceeding, and making false statements. It all stems from a theft case that accused Puana of stealing the mailbox outside the Kealoha's home, which was supposedly recorded onto a hard drive from the home security camera. Court documents say that a person identified as co-conspirator number 1 falsely claimed that her mailbox had been stolen in order to frame and discredit Gerard Puana. While records don't name her as Catherine Kealoha, documents say co-conspirator number 1 reported the theft. In the past, Catherine Kealoha told us that she reported that theft. Court documents also say an HPD officer changed the hard drive the day before the theft was even reported, and that officer then reviewed the hard drive with Silva and falsely identified Puana as the suspect, and that Silva took portions from the hard drive and falsely presented those as evidence.
Unfortunately, Mr. Silva made a very regrettable decision to sign off on some documents presented to him by other police officers. Those documents were false.
Court records also show that even after the trial, Silva again provided U.S. Postal Service inspectors with false information to cover up the conspiracy. Documents show that there are a total of 4 co-conspirators in the case. Puana's attorney says his client has been vindicated, and he expects the other officers involved to cooperate.
It's telling the rest of the conspirators in this case that we have this evidence. We already have one individual that we have come forward, and that this is serious and this is going to happen.
HPD sent a statement saying, "We are very disappointed to learn of the allegations. We hold our officers to a higher standard and expect them to be truthful at all times. If and when it is confirmed that other officers were involved, the appropriate actions will be taken." Now, Silva is scheduled for sentencing on April 3rd. He can get up to 5 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. Manolo Morales, KHON 2 News.
So, what are the implications for the chief of police? Some say the focus of the investigation appears to be shifting. Gina Mangieri is always investigating and follows up. Gina?
Joe, what's not in today's plea deal has some saying Louis Kealoha may be able to breathe easier for now. But just how high in the HPD the alleged conspiracy goes and how many will turn for the federal prosecutor remains to be seen.
The first Honolulu police officer to strike a plea deal alleging a cover-up lays out a sordid tale connected to a mailbox theft at Louis and Catherine Kealoha's former home.
Did the police chief or the deputy prosecutor frame their uncle?
That's ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
The Kealohas told me this when I asked them the same earlier this year.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We would never do something like that.
It throws around a lot of facts that people are like, ooh, you know, but there's no substance.
If any of that was true, we'd have cops coming out and saying yes, because the cops who work in this unit are the same ones that will have no problem going to the FBI when they see something wrong.
Isn't this an officer coming forward to say, yes, this happened?
And I don't know what kind of leverage Mr. Wheat has on Mr. Silva, or what his attorney, what type of deal he worked out for Mr. Silva.
But if Mr. Silva did nothing wrong, why would he need a plea agreement?
That's an interesting question. I don't know what Mr. Silva did. I don't know what the government has over Mr. Silva's head. As far as the chief is concerned, there's nothing in this document, nothing regarding Mr. Silva, Officer Silva, that implicates the chief in any improper conduct. So there's no reason for the chief to resign or step down whatsoever. Apparently, the focus of its investigation is, at least temporarily, moved toward or pivoted toward Kealoha and away from her husband, the chief of police.
It's a pivot not lost on police commissioners who've been outspoken in their criticism of the chief.
It's really troubling when allegations of misconduct are made and he's still supervising those officers. However, I will say the information does not indicate that the chief of police is involved.
Because the other alleged conspirators work for the chief of police, wouldn't their conduct reflect on him, whether he was directly telling them to do it or simply looked the other way?
Well, certainly the media is going to want to push that story, that narrative, that, gee, the chief must have known, should have known. If he didn't know, something's wrong. I'm certain that this document, Mr. Wheat would have loved to have had someone implicate the chief. Or perhaps it's an example of police officers protecting other police officers, and it's easier to throw a civilian, albeit the chief's wife, under the bus to curry favor with the prosecutor. Assuming that CC1 is Catherine Kealoha. The only thing that this document alleges, she made a call, 911. And then the implication is it's the timing of the call. People called 911 all different times.
The Kealoha's attorney anticipates more charges ahead.
I suspect it's going to be sometime either at the end of the year, the beginning of the year, but the basis for that, the tenor of today.
Now, as for Catherine Kealoha, her boss, the county prosecutor, tells me, quote, there is no evidence she presented that she committed a crime. And he adds he will not be taking any actions on her job based on what he calls allegations. He added if there was enough evidence of a conspiracy, more than one person would have been charged. Gina Mangieri, KHON2 News.